Why do some Muslims celebrate a pre-Islamic pagan festival in honor of the god Mithras? Where does this come from? What are the origins of this festival, and why is it still in some places in the Muslim world, especially Iran and Tajikistan, celebrated to this day? We're going to take a look at this, and we're going to realize that, in fact, this has long been celebrated by many Islamic dynasties. Dynasties such as the Buyid, that were the protectors and pillars of the Abbasid Caliphate, and also other Turco-Persianate emirates and empires such as the Ghaznavids, as well as the Seljuks. They too celebrated Mehrgan. We're going to take a look at the Persian epic, the Shahnameh, that has an account of how this festival comes about and why it's celebrated, why the god Mehr is honored at the end of the summer harvest and the beginning of the autumn season. So in the Persian epic tale, the Shahnameh, what you find is that the story begins with the wise ruler, the universal king of kings, and the philosopher sovereign Jamshed. He's usually corresponded with the Islamicate figure of Suleiman, who is in turn based on Solomon, the Judeo-Christian figure. And here in the painting, you see that he's really a representative of all-encompassing glory. His court is attended by all manner of creatures, from birds to mammals to fish to creatures that are supernatural, such as demons as well as angels, and of course all mortal men, east and west. His wisdom is really based on his piety because he's described as having far. He's described as having that divinely bestowed glory that gives him the legitimacy and the power to rule all of his dominion. So what happens with Jamshed after 700 years of wise and sagacious rule? In the Shahnameh, we are told چنین گفت با سال خورده مهان که جز خویشتن را ندانم جهان. He called to his council of ealdormen that he recognizes no one greater in this world than himself. So this represents Jamshed's fall from grace. He is embracing arrogance and he's turning away from the grace of God. چون این گفته شد فر یزدان از اوی بگشت و جهان شد پر از گفت و گوی. Thus he spoke, and thus the God-given far, legitimacy, turned from him. The world was thrown into tumult and worry. So what happens with the downfall of Jamshed? There is a corresponding rise in evil and malice. And of course, the god Ahriman is behind this. And his vessel on earth is Zahhak, the demon king to be. Of course, you can see him in this painting with his two snakes, two serpents that have burst forward from either shoulder, who are burrowing into his ears, and in order to feed and satiate these demonic serpents on his shoulders, he needs to kill two young men every day and to feed their brains to these serpents so that they would leave him alone. Thus, he becomes literally a world-devouring serpent. And this goes back to the old Avestan pre-Islamic origins of the idea of Zahhak as the quote-unquote Aji Dahag, the world-devouring serpent. In the Shahnameh, he's described as Maran Ejdaha fash biamad chobad, به ایران زمین تاج بر سر نهاد. The winds of change swept serpentine dragon onto the throne. He seized the crown of Iran land and ruled the world. We see that Zahhak is engaged in inverting the natural hierarchy that once prevailed under Jamshed. In the Shahnameh, it is said that هنر خوار شد جادویی ارجمند نهان راستی آشکارا گزند. Masculine virtue was laid low, sorcery was raised high, truth was obscured and trickery was laid bare. And in the Shahnameh you have this opposition between honar, masculine virtue, and jadui, this effeminate sorcery. It's the triumph of sorcery and essentially corruption, evil, against all that is righteous and truly patriarchal. And of course, this is a patriarchal culture that we're talking about. The values that it espouses are first and foremost masculine. And how does the reign of Zahhak that lasts a millennium come to an end? It is through the divine intervention of the god Mehr, commonly referred to as Mithras in the Western tradition. Mehr graces the world with the birth of Fereydun. In this dark age, Fereydun is put forward as a divinely ordained savior. In the Shahnameh, به سر بر همی گشت گردان سپهر شده رام با آفریدون به مهر. The world was shrouded in darkness until it was blessed in the month of Mehr by Fereydun's birth. And of course, Fereydun eventually rebels. You can see in this painting on the left that he's crossing the Tigris. This is because Zahhak's navy, also in the painting, refuses to let his cavalrymen board and to grant them safe passage across this tumultuous river. In the Shahnameh, it's described thus: سرش تیز شد کینه و جنگ را به آب اندر افکند گل رنگ را. He was enraged and gripped with vengeful wrath. He cast his steed deep into the river. So he's really demonstrating not just his courage and recklessness, but of course his leadership skills to his men. بستند یارانش یکسر کمر همیدون به دریا نهادند سر. His men gathered their courage, following him in fording the river. Eventually, they come to Zahhak's castle, and there they do battle, and there Fereydun smashes apart Zahhak's helmet, and just as he's about to deliver the final blow and to kill Zahhak, a man calls out to him, بیامد سروش خجسته دمان مزن گفت کورا نیامد زمان. Wise men called out to Fereydun to stay his hand. They told him that this was not the hour of Zahhak's death. همیدون شکسته ببندش چو سنگ ببر تا دو کوه آیدت پیش سنگ. Shackle him in chains and take him deep into the heart of mountains, and there bind him in stone. So Zahhak is not supposed to be slain, and this has, again, roots in Zoroastrian cosmology, and the idea is that Zahhak is the hypostasis of evil and corruption. By killing him and splitting open his body, the infection and the moral corruption will burst forth and encapsulate the entirety of the world. Therefore, Fereydun has to take him somewhere deep under a tall mountain and to bind him for eternity. Where does he take him to? Of course, Mount Damavand, the tallest volcano in Asia. It is, of course, also the tallest mountain by far in the Iranian plateau. Under this mountain, we're told that Zahhak resides to this day, biding his time until at the end of time he will burst forth, breaking his chains and erupting literally as a volcanic apocalypse onto the world. Fereydun then will raise one of his champions, and that champion will battle Zahhak to the death and destroy the world in this final conflict between good and evil. But until then, he resides still in a cavern deep under the tallest mountain in Iran. So where does the festival of Mehrgan come from? And that festival really comes from the first day of Fereydun's reign. به روز خجسته سر مهر ماه به سر برنهاد آن کیانی کلاه. Upon the first day of the month of Mehr, he placed the ancient Kayanid crown on his head. So there is an ushering in of a new reign that will bring peace and glory to the world. دل از داوری ها بپرداختند به آیین یکی جشن نو ساختند. They forgave their quarrels, and in their unity, they established a new festival. So, the festival of Mehergan is to celebrate, really, the coronation of this new world ruler. می روشن و چهره شاه نو، جهان نو زداد از سر ماه نو. And here we're told about how they're celebrating. They shared bright red wine and joy in the new age of kingship. The world was rejuvenated in this new month. They opened up incense of ambergris and saffron. بفرمود تا آتش افروختند. همه عنبر و زعفران سوختند. And finally, we have a very strong emphasis of the role of the pre-Islamic god Mehr in bringing about this victory, and how Fereydun is truly beholden to Mehr and owes his victory and his kingship, his justice upon this world, to the god Mehr. He is a Mehr worshipper. پرستیدن مهرگان دین اوست. تناسانی خوردن آیین اوست. The worship of Mehr is his religion, is his faithful obligation. تناسانی خوردن آیین اوست. And the relaxation, merriment, and feasting are his traditions. That is essentially what Mehergan is all about. To feast and to relax and to make merry and to honor the god Mehr through drinking and eating the produce and the harvest of the late summer and early autumn.